make sure that whatever the judge's time limit is, that they keep to it. So I wanted to do this. I wanted to go over some of the highlights of this week because that's what's interesting to me right now. I want to go over some of the highlights of this week because we had a lot of different highlights. So let me pull up my screen. Ha cha cha cha. And again, I hit that like button. Because you know your girl doesn't like to do what? She doesn't like to have anything go on without a good what? Without a good PowerPoint. Y'all know better than that. All right, so let me remove this. Let's get to this to the stage. Now, if you can see that, let me just change here. Maybe this will work better. No? How about that? So this is just the list of witnesses that have testified. So this was the very first witness, Mr. Israel Flores. But let's go down to this week. I believe we had Dawn Richards, Carrie Morgan. She was back on the trial. I think this is where it starts. But if not, it's still okay. So we had Dawn Richards on the trial. I think she started Friday but didn't finish. And she came back on Monday to finish her trial. Now, she testified about a few things. She testified how she knew Cassie and Diddy. She testified about her witnessing violence in 2 occasions. She talked about the egg story, and she talked about Central Park. She testified that several people had witnessed the violence against Cassie, and particularly in public. So she talked about Kalina. She talked about Usher, Neo, some of the Bad Boy staff. She stated that Diddy's security, D-Rock and Bonds, would not intervene when Diddy was exercising violence against Cassie. She talked about Harvey Pierre witnessing the violence against Cassie. And she talked about the violence being witnessed against Cassie during the Central Park incident. And she basically stated that, she had made statements that Diddy had made it clear for her not to intervene and not to talk about it. And she felt like he made a threat towards her. She said that during the Central Park incident that she wore sunglasses in solidarity with Cassie because she knew that there was nothing that she was going to do and she was going to mind her own business. Also, it's worth noting that Dawn Richard has a lawsuit out against Diddy. So now this is all according to those that were in the courtroom on the couple of days that she was on the stand. When the defense came up, according to those that were in the courtroom, they said that the defense poked a lot of holes in her story. So they said that Ms. Westmoreland was the one who cross-examined her and put a lot of holes in her story, saying that she couldn't remember dates. She couldn't remember whether or not he said things. And they're saying that the defense pretty much made her testimony seem very, very weak. Then we go to the best friend, Carrie Morgan. Now, Carrie Morgan and Cassie had been friends since 2001. She testified they met at a modeling shoot. She says that they're no longer friends. And the reason why they're no longer friends is because she felt like Cassie did not support her when Diddy exercised violence against her. But she testified that she saw violence at Diddy's home in Los Angeles. She saw violence in Jamaica. Jamaica stood out because she thought Cassie had been pruned from the timeline because she had been hit so hard and she went to the ground and she passed out. She said that Cassie woke up and jumped up and sprung out of the villa, and that Carrie Morgan testified that she got into one golf cart and Diddy got into the other golf cart. They were going separate ways, and they were looking for Cassie. She was the one that found Cassie, and they ended up hiding in a ditch from Diddy. She testified that she went to the security guard for help, and the security guards would not intervene. She testified that Diddy had assaulted her, putting his hands around her neck and hitting her in the head with a wooden hanger. Said Cassie came back later after all of this happened. She also reported that she went to the ER, or the urgent care, in regards to her injuries. She said Cassie came around later, handed her $30,000 in cash, and asked her to sign the NDA. She says she's no longer friends with Cassie because she felt like Cassie didn't support her after Diddy's attack on her. She did testify that she described Cassie being full of life, and the time that she spent with Diddy, that the spark had gone out. She did testify that Cassie was jealous of Kim, Gina, and that Cassie had called, she had called Gina a little girl. So she testified that there was some friction and things like that. So then we had David James. David James got up there. He worked with Diddy from 2007 to 2009. He described working 20-hour days. He described his responsibilities, which were making schedule. He also stated that Diddy had several different assistants. He also discussed that he traveled with Mr. Combs along with the security. He named D-Rock, Bonds, and Uncle Polly. He testified that... He testified that Diddy had his girlfriends at the time. He named Kim Porter, he named Sarah, he named Tara, he named Yana, and he named Cassie. He testified that he had two distinct conversations with Cassie. The first one was on Star Island in Miami, and he stated that Cassie said that, quote, "This lifestyle is crazy." He also testified that he asked Cassie, well, why didn't she leave? And he said that Cassie told him that Sean controls my life, my music, and he pays for my apartment. He said the second conversation that he had with Cassie was about his music. He says she seemed to want to talk about her music. They talked about her music, but he did mention that the album did not get released. He testified that he overheard Diddy say that Kim Porter is his queen out in LA with his family. He says, I have Cassie right here, right when I want her. She's young and moldable. Then we had Agent Gannett, who testified. He was the special agent in charge of the raid on Star Island. He testified that he found 7-inch lady shoes, lingerie, deconstructed AR-15s, 9mm guns. He also testified that there was weapons that the serial numbers were etched out. He testified that he found bullets. He testified he found extra cell phones. He testified about the several copious amounts of drugs. He also testified that there was at least 25 bottles of baby oil and 23 or 25 bottles of Astroglide. He also talked about that there was some pills there with the Tesla print symbol on them. And they talked about there were large sums of money. The defense did come around, and according to the folks that were in the courtroom, they said that the defense came and kind of questioned them about the way that they were gathering the evidence to be photographed. They questioned why they didn't photograph it when it was in its original place, and then photograph it after they have laid it out. There was some back and forth in regards to that. I also want to go back that there wasn't as much pushback between the defense and Kerry Morgan in regards to David James. Oh, I think I missed something on David James. I did. I missed the opportunity to speak on David James when he talked about an incident where him and D-Rock, they were out gathering some food. They saw Suge Knight. They went back to the home after they saw Suge Knight. They said that they rode up, they mounted up in the new SUV. They went there in a silver SUV. They all mounted up in the black SUV, went back to the diner. Suge Knight was not there. All playing, acting like a little gangster, and he wasn't. Also, David James also testified that he had an incident with the personal chef, Chef Jordan, where he had grabbed her hands and told her to stay in her lane, to mind her business. It got back to bad boy HR. They reprimanded him. He said that Diddy told him that he needed to apologize and then go buy the woman a gift, not for only for Diddy to turn around in a few months later and also assault the woman, Chef Jordan. So then we had Dr. Dawn Hughes. She's considered to be an expert. She didn't have any bearing on the case itself other than to testify about why Cassie would stay in a relationship, why she did not leave. So she went on and did her expert testimony. She talked about trauma bonding, love bonding. She talked about financial abuse and all those little different things. Just gave expert testimony. The defense came back and basically stated that this is her job, doing expert testimony, highlighted that she gets $600 an hour, $6,000 if she has to stay all day to testify, and had that she had no direct bearing on the case. Now, I'm just giving everything as much of an overview as I can. Then we had George Kaplan to testify this week. Now, George Kaplan, it was the little bitty fireworks that we heard coming out of there, is that he was granted immunity that day that he testified. And so he came in, he testified because he was going to come in and plead the fifth, but the judge allowed for him to be, the judge granted him immunity and he testified. He claimed that he worked for Combs Enterprise from 2013 to 2015. He was first the executive assistant to the chief operating officer, and then he became the executive assistant for KK. He said he worked from the New York office, and in that he reported to KK. He says he said that KK basically ran Mr. Combs' life, and he assisted her with that. He testified that he possibly carried bags, he carried money, he set up hotel rooms in LA, New York, and Miami. He also stated that he procured drugs for Diddy in San Tropez, New York, and LA. He stated that he worked about 80 to 100 hours a week, and he made about 125K. He said his job security was always in question because Mr. Combs didn't believe that he had the best people surrounding him at that moment. And so they were always constantly having to prove himself. Let's see. From him, we learned that Diddy hired a professional security team starting at the end of 2024, going into the 2014 to 2015. He says he testified, he heard and saw Diddy assault Cassie. He talked about an incident that happened on the private jet. He said he heard a glass break. He said when he looked up, he saw Diddy assaulting Cassie. She said that she had fallen down and had her feet up in the air, like trying to serve some distance between her and Diddy because he was assaulting her. She said that he finished assaulting her and said Cassie got up and asked, did anyone see the assault? And he testified how no one said anything. And he talked about how he felt bad about that. He also talked about how he had to clean up the rooms after the freak-offs. He stated that it wasn't his job to do that. He said, but he cleaned up the room because he did not want any of the staff to take pictures or anything and state that this is how Diddy leaves hotel rooms. He testified that Diddy told him to procure drugs in Miami. He would testify that he had been required to carry money for Diddy, and he was carrying money to Diddy upwards towards 50K. He discussed that he would usually go and get those day-to-day things. He said that Mr. Combs wouldn't know how much baby oil or Astroglide there would be, that he would just, every time they hit a new city, he would go ahead and procure and purchase a lot of these things. He said that he usually purchased those things with the cash that was given to him. He says, but towards later on, he had the bad boy credit card and he would purchase stuff. Let's see. He talked about he witnessed He talked about the girlfriends that Diddy had. He talked about Kim Porter, Gina, and Cassie. He also reported an incident where he had seen Diddy throw apples at Gina. He testified that Diddy was throwing those apples with such force that he knew that he was trying to hurt her. There was a whole big kerfluffle and stuff like that, but he said those things weighed heavy on his mind. He also talked about the differences when he set up the rooms, and that I clued in on that. He said that if he would have to set up a room for Kim Porter. He said that there was a certain way that room had to be set up. He said that there was no baby oils or anything like that. He talked about that when he set up the room, there was a particular way, and that she required particular lotions and things like that. He says, but with Cassie, when he had to set up the room, that he did have to put the baby oil and the Astroglide and the candles and all those other different things. He left Bad Boy in 2015. He claims because, his conscience got at him about sitting and watching Cassie and Gina suffer through DV, and also that his father had prostate cancer. He stated that he had pretty much an admiration for Diddy. He said that Diddy was larger than life, like a god. He just said that he felt bad about having to cover up a lot of different things. He said that he reported these incidents, what he saw between Cassie and Gina, to KK, and that, KK seemed to be very concerned about all those things that he saw. So now, the defense talked to him and did what the defense did. So we get down to who was supposed to be the star witness for the week. It was Kid Cudi. Now, Kid Cudi was supposed to testify on Wednesday, but he sent in an email saying that he wasn't going to be able to make it in on Wednesday. He was going to make it in on Thursday, and he testified on Thursday. Baby, let's see. Let me share my screen. Hold on. So here we have, let's see if it'll play. I don't know. I've had some issues about stuff playing from, let's read. I'm having some issues about some things playing. Good gracious. All right. So we have Kid Cudi, who came in and testified. He testified that he dated Cassie between 2013 and 2014. He said around a little bit before Christmas, December 2013, he said he got a call from Cassie. He said that she sounded upset and irate. And he said that she called him and said, listen, we need to talk because Diddy knows that we're in a relationship. And he said, at first, I didn't understand why that would be an issue or a problem. And she sounded a little frantic. So he said that he went over, he picked her up, he took her to the Sunset Marquis at a hotel, and she wanted to stay there. He said that I guess Diddy, I don't remember if they said that he found out during a freak off. I think she mentioned that in her testimony that Diddy found out during a freak off. He looked through her phone, and I guess he found a burner phone, and he looked through that phone and saw that she had been texting and all this other stuff with Kid Cudi. He says while they were at the Sunset Marquis, he said he got a frantic call from Capricorn Clark. Capricorn Clark told Kid Cudi that she was forced to come by Diddy and an associate to his home. She said that Diddy is in your home along with an associate, and I was forced to be here, and I'm outside in the car. They're inside your home. So Kid Cudi mentioned that I can't remember if he mentioned that he called Diddy or Diddy called him. Either way, Diddy explained to him that I'm in your home and I'm waiting on you. So Kid Cudi was going to the house. Somewhere in there between there, he called the police because he realized he didn't know, he didn't know if who that was that Diddy had with them, and he didn't want to really confront them. He said that when he got home, there was nobody there. He said, however, he said he comes in and he finds like some of the Christmas gifts that he had purchased for his family members, that they were open and they were just spread out across the kitchen table. He also said that his dog was locked up in the bathroom. When he left, his dog was free roaming around the house. He also noted that his cameras were moved. He said that after a while, he said that he said that all of that happened. He said, he went back to talk to Cassie and everything like that. They went to Connecticut to spend Christmas with her family. He says while they were there, he says Diddy called him and was texting him and all this other stuff. And I think he said that he texted back, hey, you broke into my home, you opened my Christmas gifts, and you messed with my dog. I don't have anything to say to you. Now, they weren't clear about what actually happened to the dog. Kid Cudi did say that the dog was a little frazzled after that incident. That's the best way that I can put it. He said after some time, he said after that and after January comes around, he says when January comes around, he says that he was at an ex-girlfriend's sister's house. He spent the night there, and he said he had a dog sitter that was at his home. He said that the dog sitter called him to tell him that his car was on fire. And he says another friend sent him pictures showing that his car was on fire. And this is what we see currently, what's on the screen. This is the aftermath. He says that when he got back home, he said the dog sitter, the police were there and everything like that. He said the dog sitter said that when she woke up the next morning or whatever, that the car was on fire. He said that the police were there, and he says that when he got there, he said a portion of a Molotov cocktail was on the ground, and they said that they had retrieved it from his seat. Now, this is the driver's side of the seat, and this is the door. So the door was actually closed, and so this is why that fire was so contained in there. And this is the seat burnt up. And these are all exhibits that were shown. And this is what he talked about, that someone had cut the top off because he has a cloth. This is a cloth top. And someone cut the top off and then dropped the Molotov cocktail into the car. So when he was asked by the defense about what happened, again, there was no camera footage about what happened. So the defense came out and said something about, well, did you know that there was female DNA? And then it was an objection. And then he had to re-ask the question. He said, well, nobody ever came back and told me anything. I don't know anything about what happened. Kitty said that even prior to this, him and Cassie weren't really like talking anymore because he felt like this was getting to be too much. He said that he talked with his manager and one of Diddy's security guards. They had a meeting set up for him and Diddy to meet. He said, and it was at the Soho warehouse, the Soho house in Los Angeles. Kid Cudi said that when he got to the Soho house, he said that Diddy was standing in the meeting room. He was standing in the Soho room with his hand behind his back, looking like a Marvel supervillain. Oh, good gracious. He said he was looking like a Marvel supervillain. He said that he said while in the middle of the meeting, he said that Cassie showed up, and he said it was pretty much clear to him that Cassie had gone back to Diddy. He said that he shook Diddy's hand and he asked Diddy about his car. He said that Diddy acted like he didn't know anything about the car. He said he only saw Diddy maybe a couple of years later, and then Diddy was apologizing for all the stuff that had gone down. Kid Cudi still believes that Diddy was the one that had his car torched. The defense got him to admit that he felt like Cassie had played him and Diddy. I watched a YouTuber who was there, and he made the suggestion when they were talking about the female DNA that possibly the defense was making a rush about, since Kid Cudi was at his ex-girlfriend's sister's house and he had a dog sitter, which possibly a girlfriend or current girlfriend at the time, that she may have found out that he was over there and that she may have been the one that dropped the Molotov cocktail in the car, because there was no security footage of anything going on, and that was probably the reason why they mentioned female DNA. Now, when I heard that, I thought, well, maybe when I heard female DNA, I thought maybe Diddy made Cassie go over there and do it. I don't know. I'm just saying, just a little levity in here. So as we truggled on, so he was off the stand, we had Milo Morales. Now, Milo Morales was the makeup artist for Diddy. She's also worked with Rihanna and J-Lo, and she was Cassie's makeup artist. She described an incident after the 2010 Grammys. She said that they were staying somewhere in Beverly Hills. She was still in the home and she had laid down and she kind of went to sleep. She said that she heard a knock at the door. She said that Diddy came in, asked where the F is that B. She said that he went into the bedroom and then she heard screaming and knocking. She says Diddy left. She said that when she went to go check on Cassie, she said that she had like a bruise forming on her eye and she had knots on her forehead. She said that she packed up all her stuff and told Cassie to come stay with her. She says while she had Cassie at her home, she called a doctor friend who examined Cassie and made the assessment that Cassie needed to go to the ER, because we find out later from her that Diddy apparently had hit Cassie in the head, in the chest, and in the stomach. So the doctor had asked her to go to the ER. She testified to some other things too, but they were basically, she talked about that soon after that, Cassie did a music video with Wiz Khalifa, and she said that she had to cover her bruises with makeup. They showed pictures of her work with the covering. The defense pretty much harped on the fact that she had done several interviews with different blogs and gossip sites and television interviews about the violence that she had witnessed. And she talked about that. She also talked about that she sold a photo to one of the gossip blogs or entertainment news television shows for $1,000. She was off the stand. Then we had Frederic Zamor, and he was the general manager at the El Hermitage Hotel in Los Angeles. He testified that the account with the hotel started with Sean Combs and Bad Boy around 2006. He also talked about that it had several name changes. Went to Frank, went from Sean Golden to Bad Boy, went to Frank Black or Frank White, and then ended up with the last name something Lopez. Said that the bill was always settled by Bad Boy Entertainment. He also talked about that there were stipulations and things in regards to the room. He says that the room after Diddy would leave the room, that particular room was taken offline because it had to be deep cleaned. He said that there was other stipulations that had to, is that whoever was on duty when they were there, that they were to come up and check and walk the hallway, and like around the room they were to be spraying air freshener. He says that there were big stipulations that because they had to deep clean the room, also because there would be candle wax on the carpet, and there was like every time they checked in, there was like a $2,000 fee to help clean up and do something with the room. And if anything went beyond that, that they had to contact KK before she would pay for the room. He was off the stand. Then we had Agent Croft. He was a special agent. He is their computer expert. He talked about that there were 3 devices that he was in charge to look through. He had to do that via a warrant. He noticed that there was a profile for Frank Black. He said that he was able to pull data from these 2 of the devices. He says, but one device didn't operate, but it had, because it had been dinged up so bad. And so then he was off the song. So these are the recaps of who testified and what. So again, the prosecution is still on direct testimony. So they still have next week to go. We understand that starting on Tuesday, because of the holiday, they're going to start on Tuesday. We're going to have Capricorn Clark. Now, if you remember that name, she was the person that was in the car and was forced to go with them to, according to the testimony by Kid Cudi, she was forced to go to his home along with Diddy and an unnamed person. So she's going to testify on Tuesday. Also, who's going to testify Tuesday is the LA Police Department and the LA Fire Department. They're going to testify, I guess, about the damages. So you are all caught up on what happened this week in the United States versus Sean John Combs. All right, people, we do this every week. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video if you care. Y'all, please tell a friend, tell a kin, tell a coworker, tell that heifer that you can't stand that I'm over here making these videos. And as always, people, bye-bye.